All right, let's go down to Texas and see how Paula is doing. Hopefully it's cooled off down there for her, but I don't know. We're going to see. Hey, Paula, how you doing?
Hi there. I'm doing great. It has cooled off a little bit. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. So
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
awesome.
Good,
So
good.
thanks for having me on again. So I'm going to turn
Oh,
my
you're
camera to the
so
overhead.
welcome.
Okay.
I do want to remind everybody while I first got you here that Paula is offering 10% off at colorsforearth.com with the code CS9 2023. Premium members of Clayshare, you guys get a 20% discount, and that is a special code which is only available on clayshareprime.com, or you'll get it next in the broadcast that I'm doing for you. So
Okay.
just
Awesome.
a little. Oh, and the giveaway. We didn't mention the giveaway. Paula,
Yeah.
do you want to share that you're doing a giveaway today?
You've got the list in front of you. I do not.
I do. I'll do it. So
Okay,
Paula's
great.
giving away 2 prizes. She has a color concentrate kit, 14 colors of her color concentrates, and a 5-piece brush set. It's the Clayshare brush set. That's the 2 new premium stencil brushes and 2 soft mop brushes and a Kolinsky liner. So thank you, Paula.
You're welcome. That's pretty much what I'm going to be using tonight. So this is the plate. I initially did, this is an earthenware piece. You can see that the flowers are different colors. They're really the same colors, but I did it a different way just in case somebody wanted something whiter on the stoneware one that I did versus the earthenware. So this one has the background all over, the pattern on it, and then everything painted on top. So what I did on this plate, which could be done on either earthenware or the stoneware, I use the wax off resist, okay? And I mask off the pattern area with that. If you've never used it, I just used an old brush, applied a good generous coat, and then it peels back and it relieves and shows you the white bisque so that you can move forward from there. So that's kind of a fun thing. So, and I'm going to go over the background first, but I wanted to show you this plate. I put the pattern on, I did the background, and then the neat thing I figured out was if I wanted this off of there, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Moo erasers. Those of us that do a lot of drawing and art stuff have them. You can actually take the Moo eraser and erase the product off. That's what I did on all of this area? Isn't that pretty cool that you can do that? I thought that was amazing. So if you don't have,
so cool.
Yeah, if you don't have the wax resist, then this is another way that you can do that, and I'll do the rest of that in a minute. So I just thought that was kind of cool. It's just called a Moo eraser. You can find it at any of your arts supply places. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is transfer your pattern to the tissue. This is just cheap tissue paper. I used a pencil and drew over my pattern. The pattern is provided. Kevin has that out there for you. And then I have it on my blog also if you need it there. So I transferred it. This is an earthenware piece that I'm working on tonight. And I used the Staedtler Tri Plus Fine Liner, which is like a Sharpie point. It's a water-based marker. And that's how I went over the pencil lines. It bled through. And then and you can come in and actually physically draw on the piece with this and not have any problem. If you're on stoneware, you can get away with the ultrafine Sharpie marker. I don't use the Sharpie on earthenware because it tends to repel. It burns off, but it also burns off any color that's on top of it. So that would not be my recommendation for the earthenware. Okay. So we're going to just pretend that this is not here. I'm going to start with the 3/4 inch mop, just a soft mop brush. And what I've got here on my palette is 650. These are the color strokes tonight. So I'm working mostly until I do my outlining with the color strokes, which are opaque underglaze. They have a little bit of a tiny bit of clay in them, pigment, and then they have an opaque base in them to make them more opaque than what the color concentrates are. The concentrates are translucent, these are opaque. So I've got 650 light cerulean, I've got 651 cerulean, and I've got 652 deep cerulean. So all 3 of those. And what I've done is put a little bit out, and then I've got water in another well. So I'm going to make what I call a wash. So I start with water, always dampen your brush, blot it, and I'm going to scoop a generous amount of that lighter color in there and mix it up, and I'm going to put 2 scoops. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same and do the next one, which is cerulean 651. And I'm going to do it again with 652. All right. So then I like to dampen my brush. So I'm going to dampen that mop brush, kind of blot out some of that water. It holds so much product that you could have a ton of it on there. So I'm just going to dip in. Now remember, when you make a wash, the color is heavier than the water. It falls to the bottom, okay? And I'm just going to take this and just kind of swish it across here. Now, when you add water to those watercolor markers, you're going to start bleeding or it's going to start fading away. Okay. You can also have the water in your brush and just pick up a little bit of the pure color if you wanted that stronger, and just kind of streak it. So because that mop brush, you see how fuzzy it is on the end? You can actually get those lines or the striations of the color. Okay. And then you can go into the next color, the 51, the next darkest, and add some of it to the background also. Just remember that color's in the bottom of the well, and you just streak it on there here and there. And then I'm just going to use the wet brush. I'm going to tip into the 652, which is the darker color, and kind of work that into the tip, and you're going to really be able to see this color. So it's a way just to get kind of a streaky background, and it really depends on how heavy you want the color. Okay. And then I'm going to, with that damp brush, I'm going to dampen it just a little bit more, and I'm going to pick up 640, which is navy blue, and in the bottom and the left side, I made it darker. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have that damp brush. I'm going to tip into the 640 just a little bit, kind of work that into the tip of my brush. And then I'm going to just add that to this lower side. See how it just streaks up? And it really depends on how strong you want this. You can keep adding, but make sure you keep it towards the bottom. Okay. You can rinse the brush and even come back if you see an area, because they're in a gel base. If I don't, my flower is going to be on top of there. It doesn't really matter. But if you had something you didn't like, you could just take water in that brush and lightly come off of there. Okay. So with those colors, then we're going to go to this piece, the magic of the camera, right? And you've got this type of a look. Now, you can come in and you can add black now, or you can add it later. I'm going to wait and add some more later on that other piece. But again, you take the Moo eraser and just erase off any of that color. This is an earthenware piece, just FYI. I think it is. Yes, it is. I was thinking I did that. Trying to find pieces that I could paint this on. So just erase it off of there, which I thought was, you know, you never know till you try something, right? This plate has, in case somebody asked, there's red markings underneath. It was a plate that we actually were using up at Wisconsin for the show, and I just painted over the top of it because I didn't want to have to fire the watercolor marker off. Okay, so then we're going to take a few colors, and I'm going to get rid of all this. Actually, I can just grab another palette instead. Oh, no, you know what? I forgot something. We need to put some gray in that background also. So 604 ash gray is another one. And I'm going to just dampen my brush once again, grab a little bit of that gray. And I just added some of the gray more towards the top. So you could do any color combination you want. This is just happened to be what I picked out. I tend to gravitate towards blues. Okay, so I think you can see that there's some gray. So that kind of tones it down a little bit. Okay, so these are, like I said, the opaque underglazes, which are nice. They can be, you could use your color concentrates by all means. If you did, I would add the medium to it, the gloss medium, CSP01. Okay, so I'm going to put out some white, the 602. And then we're going to do 650, which is the light cerulean. And we're going to have the gray, believe it or not. So these are the colors that are going to be on the flower. I'm going to switch and go to the smaller mop, which is in that kit we're giving away. This is the 1/2-inch mop. Once again, dampen your brush, blot out the moisture. So I'm going to fully load that mop with the white. And I'm going to drag one side. When I say drag, I'm going to take this side of it, and I'm going to drag one side with the blue, turn it over, and drag the other side with the gray. Okay. If you were on top of a color like I was here, you can block in with 1 to 2 coats of the white if you want your flower more white, or you can do like I've done here and mask it off or erase it off. And this is just a fun way to be able to get that on there. Okay, so just start on the outside of your petal and press down, pull, pull, and come to the center. Grab more white, more blue, more gray, and so you can turn it one way or the other. So it just kind of blends all those colors in there together for you, which is nice. And I'm not rinsing my brush. I'm just going back and grabbing all of those, press, and then just come to, so when you come, you're just coming off, kind of almost like off on the chisel edge. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to keep it within the space. So you can kind of brush over it and blend those colors together. If you have enough on your brush that you can do 2 strokes, you can do that. So if I wanted to do this one here and add a little bit right there, and then grab more and more. So I'm just reloading on the chisel edge. Okay. And Jess, you'll let me know if anybody has questions, right?
Oh, we got a few. I just don't want to interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just going to block these in with the same motion and method. I can answer.
So they were asking about that tracing pencil. What kind is that?
So that is a Statler Tri Plus fine liner, and Amazon has a big box. Here we go. How's that? 36, and it's like $20-ish. It's a great price. So search. I mean, they have some smaller kits, but you get the better deal when you buy that big one on Amazon. That's the cheapest I have found anywhere. Is that 36 pack? Okay.
And there was a question: will the Moo Eraser erase the lines on your flower?
No, because it's a water-based marker and it seeps into the bisque because it's porous. So no, it will not. They will just burn off.
And the other question we have is, what do you have your plate sitting on?
Oh, just a little turntable, like a Lazy Susan, in case I need it to turn around easily. You can find those anywhere. Amazon, right? We buy anything on Amazon, I think. I don't remember where I got that particular one. I have a couple of different ones. You could have it sitting on your banding wheel, that would work too. So I'm just blocking in and filling those in. So you get gray, you get blue, you get white. Now you're going to say, well, how do you get to those smaller ones? You're just going to stand up more on the chisel edge when you're doing it. So I'm on this chisel like this instead of the flat like that. And I'm just going to block those in the same way. Now I am only doing 1 coat on these because it's hard if you try to do multiple coats to see the lines that variegate through them. So I would say just 1 coat's all you need. And then you can just turn in different directions how you pull that brush. So, and you could use a round brush if you wanted. I just used the mop because they were, I just loaded the wrong side. They were new out there, and I know a lot of people have mops, and so I thought it would show you a different way that you can use them. This is a white goat hair mop, so it's very, very soft. It would be something that you would put glaze on with. Okay, so just press and pull. I'm not going to worry. If I have a little bit of white showing around it, I'm not going to worry about that because your outline will cover it. And then I'm going to show you that you can put your pattern back on if you need to. So that's kind of cool. All right, so just one coat. But if you were trying to cover over this, okay, let's just say that you didn't have an eraser and you put the pattern on beforehand, or even if you put it on after, you could come in and you can do just the white. I would block it out. I did not on that first plate, and it came out a little darker because of the background, but you could just come in here and block in white to make that blue go away in the background, basically, is what you're doing. So you're just trying to cover that. So you can see how that just, so that's how you would get away with that. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I try to show you different ones so that if you don't have something, you can figure out a way to do it, right? Okay, so then I'm going to take some of that same, we're going to do the 651 blue. That's the middle shade of blue. And we're going to do a little bit of the 652. And like I said, you could change the colors. So I'm going to fully load, meaning shampoo that brush, okay, with that middle blue. And now I'm going to create some lines coming out from the center. So I'm not going to use it on the flat. I'm going to use it on the chisel. I'm going to turn it up on that point, and you can just pull. You could do this with a liner, but once again, I like to switch things up and show you different ways to do things, and using the same brush that you blocked in with. So constantly turn your piece, okay, and just pull in all these little detail lines. It just adds more blue to that center and makes it nice and fun. Different lengths, try to make them short and long, not all the same length. Okay. And then do the same. You're only going to get a couple, you've got littler petals up here. So less pressure on the brush, staying more up on that chisel. And you see how I'm just on that little chisel edge there to create that. I just thought this would be something fun and simple, but elegant that you guys might like, something different. It was different for me, kind of out of my box, so to speak. Any questions so far, Jess?
There was the Moo eraser. Will that also work on stoneware as well as earthenware?
It should. I don't know any reason why it wouldn't, other than the stoneware bisque is more porous. So you may want to go to the wax off resist and resist it instead of trying to erase it. But I would just test it on a piece of stoneware bisque that you have sitting there. And I don't have, yeah, I don't have one back here in front of me, or I would test it in front of you. Okay, so then if you want the centers a little darker, I'm going to load in that 652 deep cerulean, and you can add some of those in here, but I'm not going to add as much. So I'm going to keep it closer to the center. I mean, so there's really, you can do this so many different ways, and it just depends on how much work you want to do. Okay, and if your brush starts coming apart like that, where it's getting an opening, you need to reload so that you can keep that chisel edge, or go to a liner brush if you want. Like I said, I just thought this was kind of fun to be able to do it with this brush. And because these are opaque underglazes, they're not going to look opaque the way we're doing them, because we're only putting, you know, very light coats on there. So they're going to be more transparent. Any other questions?
We just have a few folks that I think are joining a little later. They don't understand how you got the flower pattern to stand out from the background, because I think they missed where you talked about using the latex resist or the Moo eraser.
Okay, so I just took, while this is drying for a second, I took the pattern and put it on tissue with the pencil. Actually, I'm going to turn on my fan for 2 seconds. And then I used the Statler Triplus fine liner to transfer to, so I just drew over the pencil lines and it came out red on this. And you can kind of see the red lines there. So if you have the background all over and you put your pattern on, you can block out your flowers in white, or you could have taken the resist, the wax off resist, and you can block, put it all over your flower, your design, whatever it happens to be, and then put your background on, and then you peel that off and it's a white area. And that's what I did on this one, so that I got a nice white background on top of putting white with my colors that I put on there. So that was kind of fun. This one is stoneware, and I used the resist on that one. Okay. On stoneware, you can use the Sharpie fine point to transfer a pattern. You could sketch with a pencil. You could sketch with those Statler Triplus. Those work also. And did you guys know, just because we're doing this, if you put a pencil or something underneath your plate and raise it up when you're trying to dry something, it's going to dry quicker than if you set it down onto the surface, because when you set it down, your foot is touching your surface and keeping that moist underneath. So here again, when it's drying for just a second, here's your two different ones. If you want it really white, which this one over here on the right, either use the resist and block it out and then peel it off, or you need to put on 1 to 2 coats of the white before you start the colors. This one has the background underneath it and then just painted the flowers, which is basically what this guy is here. Okay, so while this is drying, I'm going to show you on this one. You're going to take that, you can either use the mop or you can take the stencil brush. So this is the size 14, which is one of them that's in that kit that we're giving away. And I'm going to get some of the black out, the 601 coal black. And I need to get a new, you need to have shop towels. They're more durable. They don't get the fuzziness when you're doing any kind of stencil work. So I'm going to load that brush. This is the premium brush. It's a synthetic hair. It is not a natural hair. So I'm going to load it. I'm going to pounce out and get that brush loaded. And then I'm going to go to my shop towel and take just a little bit off just by doing a circle. And then you can take and you can just streak this onto the piece. And usually I do it from the bottom up. And I just thought that was the coolest way to use your stencil brush to get more lines. And I mainly have these coming from the bottom and on that right side. As you need more, tap it in, wipe off some. You're wiping it off because you don't want this to be a solid area. You don't want it to be like you're painting. You're dry brushing basically. And so you're creating this shadow. And I know my petals are down to here. I probably won't use this one, but just to give you. So I'm keeping it away from the top. I did have some kind of underneath those other flowers, just kind of for a shadow. And you can see that on this guy here. So you see what we're creating. So I'm just pulling that up, but it's a good idea to come from this direction to add that. Okay. I think you have more control that way for sure. And so that's just that's how I put the black on here. You could also use the mop brush if you wanted. And I'll show you, I'm kind of drying this out because I want it fairly dry. And then I'm just going to tip just the tip of it. And I'm going to kind of work that in, but also kind of take some off. And you could take that and you could feather up from the bottom. Think of a feather, really light, okay? And that's another way to create that texture to it. You could do this and do like, gosh, barn wood. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do, like different color combinations. So Your imagination is your limitation on that for sure. Okay, so then between the petals, and I've shown this in a couple of different classes, but just so that everybody knows, you can take that water-based marker, and if you're unsure where, I'm going to zoom in just a hair or more, and you can take and just make little dots. Don't push hard, but just make little dots where your petals are. You can also retrace your design on through the tissue if you want, but this is going to help you be able to know where to outline and know where to shade if you want to do all of those types of things. Any questions, Jess, while I'm doing this?
Folks are just asking where the pattern is for this. Now, we shared the links in the broadcast. You can always go to colorsforearth.com, and if you go to the blog, she has everything there, but I am sharing the link again so folks can get this stencil.
Thank you. Yeah, and I did put the list of colors and everything on there, so you get a pattern like this with all the colors listed and the brushes and everything are there. And I don't have next week's project done, but it's going to be a simple rooster. I did one the other night and I'm like, oh yeah, that's way too long. That ain't going to work. So that'll be another class at another time. So, okay. So then we're going to do what's called Sumi shading. Okay. So we're going to shade between, I'm trying to find places to move things. So what I do with the medium Sumi brush, I'm going to water load, drag off to a point. So I'm removing the excess water. I'm dragging, I'm turning it over, dragging again, turn it over, drag again. Okay. Let me back off a little bit. Okay. So every time I go to rinse my brush, that's what I'm doing. Okay. Then when you get done dragging off the excess water, I'm tipping into the deep cerulean 652, and I'm going to tuck it near the center, and I'm going to go between the petals. Rinse my brush, water load, drag off to a point, tip. See how you can create a shadow between those petals. How are we doing on time, Jess?
We're at 5:30, so you've got 25 minutes.
Okay, I'm hurrying. I always do that. I try to hurry.
Don't rush.
I thought you were funny last week since you were on there a long time afterwards.
Oh my gosh, that glazing. And I had to come back the next day and finish the glazing because everything was so wet. But that was like a 2-hour glazing class almost. It was so long.
That was
should
funny.
not have been so long. And we only got one thing glazed. Like it just took so long.
So constantly rinse your brush, drag off to a point, tip into the color, and tuck that color where you want it. So tucking means aim the brush where you want it. I know last week we had somebody ask about that. And then kind of pull it or slide down between. So up here, even if my brush strokes that I applied the color to the petals are different than what my pattern was, all I did when I marked my petal design, I just marked it so that I knew where my brush marks were. It doesn't matter what the pattern was because I never paint. I'm always painting larger than what I have designed it for. So I'm just constantly going back and re-tipping and then tucking it in and kind of walking it up one side or the other that I feel like it needs to be a shadow. So tuck it in, set it down, sit it down. So I'm pushing all the way down with that. Don't be afraid. Water's your friend. And these are my Sumi brushes that I created like 29, 30 years ago. They're a black squirrel hair, so they're natural hair. They're really soft, and they are completely different than the over-the-counter, so to speak, Sumi brushes, right, Jess? Those are like
completely different
pony hair, and they're coarser. These are a softer hair, like the hair on your head. It's a natural hair. Okay, so I'm just adding that shadow behind each petal. Tuck it in, sit it down, mush, mush, mush. I call it, and walk it to the right and walk it to the left, and then I'm going to come up behind some of those. Okay. And you can switch and go to the, you could go to the small. That was the medium, Sumi, but you could also use the small on your smaller pieces. If you feel like you got on something you don't like, you can quickly take a clean brush and water and just soften that or move it around, push it back in, whatever you want to call it. Okay. All right. So I ended up getting this one dirty with the black, but that's okay. So I'm going to take and do the 651. Let's see if I can get this on here. And I'm going to just stipple in the center. So stippling is pouncing. I'll move that. So you're basically pouncing in. And when you do that, you're getting highs and lows because you're depositing different amount of color in that area. And I kind of lost this one. Now, let me show you something that if you decide, thought I left that brush out. Yes, I did. You can take a Taklon square shader, dampen it. This is the 2200 number 8 that I have here. And you can actually push, because the color is in a gel base, I can push that color back off, wipe some of it off of my brush over on a paper towel. Because if you just keep moving it around, that's what you're doing, is moving. You're not removing any of it. So as you get some of it, then wipe your brush off. So you could do that. I could have come up here and did the same thing if I wanted to make that larger, but the colors are going to cover it. See how it, with the gel base, it allows you to move that around. You have some open time, in other words. Okay, so you can see the centers there. All right, so let's go back and stipple that back in there. We're going to use a couple of different colors. This is 651 that I'm using to start with. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of the 652, the darker color, pounce it in, and rub some of that off. And now I'm going to kind of keep that towards the bottom of the area. So I'm just kind of on its edge, but enough that I can get it to touch to that surface, about halfway or so. And then if you take a whole bunch of the paint out, you can gently just tap on the top part, and you're getting like little dots is what you're getting. Okay. And then I can go to the 640, the navy blue. This is a pint-sized bottle. It's the only one I had open. It's a big one. Well, serious painter, right? Any other questions about the stippling with the stencil brush?
Nope, we're getting, people love your colors and they love the way you explain your brush strokes to everybody.
Thank you. Well, if you succeed, then I succeed. I've always said that. So I've added the 640, which is navy blue, and I'm going to just barely kind of touch the bottom. And I think you can kind of see it's kind of speckledy. So in other words, if you're just barely touching it, you see, it just gives little tiny dot pattern is what you're doing. It's hard to see when you've got all that wet color under there. But just tickle it, just barely touch it on the lower side. And then because that one's wet, I'm going to grab a smaller one, and I'm going to grab the white. So this is the number 12. We do have a set of the stencil brushes, and then we have the Clayshare set. If you just type in Clayshare in the search bar, it'll bring up the brushes, any of the anything to do with Clayshare. And then I'm just going to tap this on the top, and I think you can kind of see, same thing, it's just making little tiny dots of white to make that lighter at the top. If you have the stubby brush, if you've got it, you can do the centers with the stubby also. And when you clean those brushes, just use like a soap cleaner or just water is fine. Okay. Then I came back and I shaded that same water load, drag off to a point, but this time I'm going to tip into the navy blue and I'm going to shade the lower side of that center. So it's like floating color. So tuck it in, sit it down, mush, 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 walk it to the right, walk it to the left. And if you will say that to yourself, you will actually do it. I promise you. I know that sounds goofy, but you'll remember. And then that just adds another. So every layer you add to something, you're building the color up. It's going to be darker and more intense. Okay. So you can see that you can add more black if you want it stronger. Um, and you can see all those little stipply. I think you can see that. You can see it looks like you sat there and put a whole bunch of little dots on it, and all you did was use that stencil brush to apply it, which is kind of cool. It makes your job easier. Okay, and then basically all that's left to do is to outline, believe it or not. And I'm going to do that with the color concentrate black. Now, why am I switching to color concentrate? Is because the concentrate is a translucent or transparent underglaze. It's more concentrated, hence the word concentrate. And it's easier, getting all the water out of there, it's easier to do your detail work with it. Okay. You can kind of see some of that in one. Yeah. Okay. So this is a CC 101. You could outline it with blue. You could outline it with 140, which is the cobalt blue in the color concentrates. That would work also. So it's really, if you want to keep it kind of monochromatic, you could leave out the black and then detail with the blue. So I'm just going to take my 3600 number 2 liner, and I don't even have words left on my brush because I use it so much. And I'm thinning down the black with water. If you were to thin down this black compared to this one, you can see it's darker. Some of that's the bottle. But time you thin this down to get a fine line, it would be grayed out because it's meant for 2 to 3 coats as an opaque underglaze. This one is meant for a brush stroke. Okay. I was trying to think. Kevin, I need, while I'm thinking about it, the lady that won the brush last week, I need an email for her. She's not in my system. Amy
It was Anne
Wexler, is that right?
Wenzel. Wenzel. I have her information.
Okay.
I'll have Kevin send it to you.
Okay, I don't think he sent that one. I just happened to think about that. Okay, so just staying up on the tippy toe. Okay, so press and then lift and just do thick and thin lines. If you do thick and thin, then you don't have to be perfect all the time. That's why I do it. And just little tiny, yes.
Do you have a distributor in Canada?
I don't.
That sells your color concentrates?
No, I used to have a glass studio that had some, but I don't. I know there's a lot of people. They can email me and I can give them, what the postage would be. A lot of people do that versus doing it online.
Paula. Same thing with the UK. We had a question. Do you have a distributor in the UK?
I have a glass distributor that does carry some of the color concentrates and kit number 1. Of course, they use it on glass. It's called Warm Glass UK, and you can find that on the website, my website. Down at the bottom, there's a studio and teacher link, and then it's by state and by country. So press and lift. So if you do thick and thin, like I said, you don't have to, and I don't even really, you don't have to follow exact. Okay. And then when you're doing your fine lines, just keep it up on your tippy toe, little tiny fine. How we doing on time? Okay, we're good. Your edge can be whatever you want. And I want to make sure I show that because I don't think we showed that last week. And if anybody's new, they may not know how to get that nice little edge, that little trick. Okay, so just keep thinning that color. Keep it up on the tippy toes, long and short. And then I just keep going back and adding. And it's really to your liking how much you want in there. What it does is just create more shadow around that center. Yeah, even the UK or anybody, they can just get a hold of me. And usually what I'll do is box it up and then give them the different shipping rates.
So I know we have a lot of folks in Australia.
Yeah,
I know
ship.
they have a hard time getting our products, like the products we use here in the U.S. They have a hard time getting.
Right. I had somebody in Australia that wanted to carry it, but then I never heard back from them. So I think it just, with COVID and everything, it kind of put things on. But Warm Glass UK does have some of the color concentrates. And if you just talk to them and tell them what you want, I can add it to their, like we just shipped today, going out to them. So I can add it to their next shipment, but you need to reach out to them and all their information. Her name is Hannah, and it's on the website at the very bottom under studios and teachers. There's reference of emails, websites, everything, so you can kind of see what they've got and reach out to them. But we have done that for some people before. But I ship.
And I just want a little bit of information for folks out there. If there's a product you see and you want your local supplier, like local clay center or clay supplier, to carry it, you reach out to them and you tell them, oh, I love Paula McCoy's Colors for Earth. I wish you would carry them, because that's what happens is then they reach out to Paula. Yep. Because Paula, usually distributors won't carry a product if the company comes saying, hey, you want to carry my stuff? There has to be a demand for it.
Exactly.
So the best thing you all can do is reach out to your local clay suppliers and say, hey, this is a really great product. I love to use it. You should carry it. And if multiple people do that, then they will.
Exactly.
That's how
I just
it works.
had a lady today that said, I just contacted 3 of my studios, and they said that they would get a hold of me after the first of the year. You know, it may not be in the budget for this year, but maybe next. So what I'm doing is just taking the same black and I'm putting little tiny dots. And let me zoom in a little bit around that center, and that helps frame it. And I'm going to go a little heavier towards the bottom. Now, you could use a dotting tool, a stylus if you wanted. Sometimes I do both. I just like using the tip because you get varied sizes depending on how much pressure you put down. And then you can come in. So you just need to kind of shape it. Sometimes I tend to make it too perfect. That's where the perfection thing, it's like, just leave it loose, Paula. Leave it loose, which is really hard for me. You can even create a divot in the center. And what I mean by that is, like, if I wanted to add some more dots in here, and it'll make it look like it's down in there. Okay. And then on the stems, you will just come in. You can come in with either the black color strokes or the color concentrate, either one, and create that stem for all of those. Keep your product thinned down. Multiple thin coats is better than one thick, heavy coat, by all means. So this is the color concentrate, which is the translucent or transparent underglaze. That one's going up to here. And then we've got a stem here. And Jess, I don't remember if we said last week, we are, I think I got cattywampus here. I'm going to move my stem over here. That the pieces that I'm painting during the lives, we're going to actually
that's right.
give away
we're
some of those.
Give some of them away. That's right. That's right. So on the last, each week that Paula's here with us, we're doing the giveaway of the product prizes, her brushes and colors, but she's also going to give away the demo pieces. So some lucky people are going to get an original by Paula McCoy. So, and to be entered in these giveaways, all you do is go to clayshare.com and sign up for our emails. our premium members are automatically entered.
I love
Can't
that.
help myself. I know. So you don't have to do anything at all. If you're a member, you're just automatically entered in all of our giveaways always. And you do not have to watch to win. We email the winners and let them know that they won. So it's super easy to do. You should do that. So if you're didn't sign up yet, well, you can't win tonight, but guess what? You can be entered to win next week.
Yeah. And I did send out one of the giveaways from last week today that I happened to have. I think it was Judy that won last week. I had her address, but the other ones I need information on. So I've emailed.
We'll get it to you.
Yeah. Kevin got some of it to me. It's just that surprise one that I did. I didn't have a address or email.
That's what happens when you give away surprise giveaways that aren't scheduled.
And we'll give these away in the prime, like at the end of the month, right? We'll just do them all in that
do it the
night.
end.
Okay, that'll be our
we'll
giveaway. Okay, so you just keep coming in and putting all that detail in. We still got time. Okay, I can paint all day.
We have 7 minutes. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
No, we got plenty of time.
Any more questions? So just keep it fine.
Just keep going, yeah.
Okay. So press and lift, press and lift. So what that does is give you thick and thin. Okay. Like I said, there is a Clayshare set of brushes which uses the 2 mop brushes, the liner, and I think I put 2 stencil brushes in there. That way, if you already had some of my brushes, that was another way to get some of the new ones. And who can't use an extra liner? You know, when you use your liners on bisque or any of your good brushes on bisque, it tends to wear them down a little bit. So you can always use multiple liners. All right, so then just come in and add those little dots around the center. Just kind of a hit and miss, constantly loading. So change it up, use different colors. You could very easily turn this into an orange and red poppy.
And, I can see it.
Yeah, do more squared off petals as opposed to rounded. I may have to do that since I said that now. Oh, there's certain flowers I gravitate to.
That one there looks like a blue Himalayan poppy.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so since I did that little divot on the other one, I'm going to kind of add that there so that you've got it. And then we've got our little guy over here. I need to thin that down. So the key is, even though it's an opaque underglaze that I used for the coloring, it doesn't matter because you can do different things. So I had a thicker line, so I'm just going back over that to kind of clean that up. So if you have like a really heavy line somewhere and it's a mistake, say, okay, just go back and put a heavy line somewhere else in your design, a couple of them, so that people don't draw their eyes just to that. So that's a way to fix that. Okay. And I think Paula needs to treat herself to a new liner. This one's getting kind of a blunt end on it. I've used it so much on the bisque.
They do, yeah. I mean, when you use them, so just so everybody's aware that, you know, brushes don't last forever. They do wear out.
Yeah, that's why if you'll base coat with a white or something first, or any color, and then do your design work on top of that, sometimes it does. It makes it more gentle on your brushes. So I could have done that. I could have put 1 to 2 coats of white and then come in with the other. But just be aware, you know, you don't want to get too heavy or too many coats with your opaque underglaze or even your translucent. If you get too heavy, you can have cracking and peeling. So just try to, multiple thin coats are better than, I can't preach that enough. Because usually that's the reason something happens, is because of that. All right, then you're going to sign. And since this is one that's going out, whoops, missed that. You can do that with the same brush. Load again. And you can also, if you needed to, it's hard to talk and write. If you needed to take something off, like I see a little spot over here where I was out, you could take your diamond cord tool and you could just, scratch that off. Or you can make that line a little thicker. Oops, sorry. All right, I want to show them the edge real quick, and then, so make sure you have a turntable for sure. Put that on there, and then you take your 1-inch foam brush. Okay, this is like a house, and I call this the roof. So there's hard plastic in here. You don't want to put that on the edge of your plate. Okay, let me back off so they can see more. Okay, so you don't want to put that on the edge because it's hard plastic. It's going to pull up. You want to stay up here. So what you're doing is staying right in the middle of that. Okay, so you're staying just right in the middle. I am going to dampen it. I'm going to go into the black color stroke because it is the opaque one. Again, you could use the blues, but since I have the black that comes out to the edge, so I'm going to center it. And then the only reason you have the turntable or a banding wheel is to aid you in moving the plate. So keep it right in the center of that. Apply the same amount of pressure. Turn it over. Use the product on the other side. So this is just aiding you in turning. This will work with any shape. I don't care if it's a petal plate, it's a triangle, a heart, rectangle, square, doesn't matter. You can do this nice professional edge with it. And you want to put a couple of coats on, let it dry, and then come back and do a couple more coats. And you have a nice finished piece. How's that? Pretty cool.
Perfect. I love it.
Okay, so if they're not familiar with the kits, let me see if I can pull that up for them real quick. Maybe, if we have a second. If my, let's see here. No, I don't have it on here. It doesn't look like. Just trying to find it. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what I want. There we go. Let's see if the Clayshare kits will come up. No, probably not. Of course not. All right, so let's. Oops, that didn't work. Oh, now they're all kicking
there they
in.
were. There we go.
They're like afterthought. Holy moly!
They just kept going.
They did. I'm like, what in the heck? So that's some different technology. Like I said.
Yay.
All right. So I'm going to attempt to go back to me. It'll probably switch to a kit and then come back to me. There it did. See, there's the different kits.
Yeah, it did. There's a kit.
The 3 on the bottom, and then the Clayshare color stroke kit is up there, and then you could always add other colors to it. So if you just type in Clayshare on the website, you'll find all different types of things. Okay. And now if we can get it back to me, which we may not be able to because my cursor's not moving. So oh, there it is. See, it's like a delayed reaction. I don't know what the deal is with that. Okay. All right. Like I said, technology. What can you say? Got to live with it. Can't live without it and can't live with it some of the time. So I hope they enjoyed the project. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.